speech on housing could have been a game changer for the Conservative Party, but instead, the Prime Minister completely missed the mark and made promises that she knows her government can't keep. Did you see the Prime Minister's speech on housing this week? You've probably seen the pictures of it at least. She did it in front of this big brick wall thing with what looked like text that had been designed on Microsoft Paint. It looked like a lot of effort had been put into something that just ended up being not that good. If anything sums up this Conservative government, that's probably it. In the speech, May said that she cannot fulfil her dream of making Britain a fairer place for all unless we solve the housing crisis. Fair enough. She told us that the causes and manifestations vary from place to place, which is technically true, but she also claimed that the root crisis is simple. She said for decades this country has failed to build enough of the right homes in the right places, which is just wrong. Looking at her record, it's clear that Theresa May is one of the most pro-immigration politicians and prime ministers that this country's ever had. She's on par with, if not worse than, Blair. Blair, of course, is famous for opening the floodgates into Britain, bringing net migration up from about 50,000 in 1997 to over 200,000 in 2004. But it's Theresa May as Home Secretary who consistently failed to meet David Cameron's pledge of bringing immigration down to the tens of thousands. And she didn't just miss it by a margin, it was a serious long shot. Just look at these figures from Migration Watch. Between 2010 and 2016, years where May served as Home Secretary, the net migration figures, which is the difference between people coming in and out of the UK, only ever went as low as 177,000, but peaked at as much as 332,000. From an economic perspective, it's net migration that matters. This means that Britain's adding hundreds of thousands of people to its economy every year and driving up the demand for houses while reducing the supply. This is simple economics that Theresa May refuses to accept. Either that or she used the same maths teacher as Diane Abbott. Sorry, that's low blow. But looking at this from a non-economic perspective for just a moment, it's worth noting that gross immigration figures are even more startling. Gross immigration into the United Kingdom has sat between around 500,000 and 600,000 since 2002-ish. That's millions of non-Brits becoming permanent residents in the United Kingdom over a period of 15 years or so. New figures from the Office of National Statistics shows that Britain's population increased by more than 500,000 by year ending June 2016, with 62% of that increase being accounted for by migration. That means England now has a population for the first time of more than 55 million. And by 2029, according to the ONS again, the entire UK population is expected to reach 70 million. That's pretty terrifying. Not only will this continued inflow of people from all over the world mean that we maintain ridiculously high housing prices, I mean if you even looked for just a one bedroom down south these days, the prices are insane. But these prices are just going to keep on increasing, and the last thing I want to see is politicians attempting to reduce that increase by some small margin simply by plastering the UK with loads of new towns and bulldozing over our green and pleasant land to make Britain into one big housing association apartment block. Does Theresa May just not understand maths, or is she purposely engaging in a plot to transform the face of this country? Does she really care about the people who are struggling to get jobs? Does she actually care about the British people who can't get their first step on the housing ladder? Or is Theresa May more interested in welcoming in hundreds of thousands more competitors for jobs, dependents, cheap workers and people looking for houses, and destroying Britain's stunning green land in the process? Funny that, isn't it? I'm a Conservative, an actual Conservative, and I care way more about Britain's natural landscape than the Greens. To be honest, I feel like I'm probably preaching to the choir here. I'm sure you already know the answer to all this. But what I find so amazing about all of it is that if she just stood up on that stage, even with that stupid brick backdrop, and said that she wanted to reduce demand to stabilise the housing market, then she'd have been taken seriously by millions of voters. UKIP's vote shares collapse now, and if she doesn't start appealing to their traditionally conservative views, then they might turn to Labour. I know that sounds a bit weird and paradoxical, but they will. Corbyn's a protest vote, or at least some people just see him as a shot at taking Britain in a different direction. Theresa May and the Conservatives are in government right now. They have a chance to define a whole new era for Britain through a successful Brexit deal that fulfills the wishes of the 52% of our nation. If she just did what we told her to do in the summer of 2016, joined forces with more populist voices like Jacob Rees-Mogg, then by God, she could win in a landslide in a few years' time. But perhaps she needs a new maths teacher.
We will make America great again.